After the usual business had been transacted, the question of how much to spend for flowers for a brother buried out of state was then discussed. It was finally moved, seconded, and carried that our secretary advised the Grand Lodge that our lodge was prepared to spend not more than $20 for any one funeral, regardless as to where the brother would be buried. After lodge was closed, everyone, including our guests, retired to the dining room where refreshments were served by the junior warden. The year 1976 had arrived. This would be the bicentennial year of our country. Even though on February 6, 1976, suggestions were made to observe July 4th with some kind of a program, none was ever formulated. The drive for the March Dime started with the new year. A kitty was put on the secretary's desk for those who wished to contribute. At the meeting on April 16, 1976, it was noted that $15 had been collected. The lodge voted to match that amount with lodge funds, so $30 was sent to the country chairman. Also, the Grand Lodge notified each lodge in the state that the Grand Secretary had bicentennial coins on hand if any of the brethren would like to purchase them. Our lodge voted to buy 15 for resale. 1976 was not one of our better years, especially when it came to collecting dues. On May 7, 1976, the master appointed brothers Buford A. Padley and Charles H. Boyd to contact our delinquent members. They were more or less successful because the minutes of the June 18th show that only 5 were dropped for non-payment of dues. Our great order is known for its generosity when it comes to helping members and non-members alike. On May 21, 1976, there was a discussion about the 13-year-old daughter of Mr. and Mrs. George Wright, a cancer victim, who was in need of an electric wheelchair. The Scottish Rite members of our lodge was instrumental in getting that body of Freemasonry to furnish one. The August 6, 1976 meeting found the brethren thinking about another fundraising dinner. Brothers Buford A. Padley, Paul Scrobin, and John E. Hirschman Sr. were appointed a steering committee to make all the arrangements. At the next meeting, the master appointed Brother Charles H. Boyd, Terry D. Boyd, and Jerry L. Boyd to take care of getting the raffle tickets printed. The committee reported that the banquet tickets would be $3 and raffle tickets would be $1 each. Also, that the City Hall was reserved for October 16, 1976. Again, we would be raffling off a shotgun and an AM/FM clock radio. The event was widely advertised in the local paper and on the radio. On October 1st, 1976, the master, Brother Elmer Hahn Jr., made his report on the recent Grand Lodge session. He informed us that one of our brothers, Charles H. Boyd, had been appointed District Deputy Grand Master of the 35th District. At this writing, 1980, Brother Boyd probably feels the work and responsibility, along with the expenses connected with the appointment, far overrides any honor or personal satisfaction he may have envisioned. Butler Lodge number 254, however, is honored by having one of its members' ability recognized by the Grand Lodge. The Grand Lodge was now talking about moving their offices from St. Louis to Jefferson City and asked for a $2 donation from each member in the state to help finance the move. The fundraising dinner in 1976 was held on October 16th. The results were almost as good as the year before. The tickets were the same price. The price is about the same, and the gross profit was $588.30. On November 5th, 1976, the problem with the roof came up again. The lodge trustees were instructed to meet with the Oddfellows trustees to see what could be worked out. On November 19th, 1976, we were officially notified that the Grand Lodge offices would be moved to Jefferson City. Again, it was requested to ask each brother for a $2 donation to help pay for the expense of moving. Brother Wesley Shaw moved, and Brother Robert V. Fonstock seconded that we send the money from the lodge funds. Motion carried. On December 3, 1976, it was voted to help the Eastern Star, the Oddfellows, and the Rebeccas buy a refrigerator for the kitchen. Our part would be $31.25. Also on this same date, the motion to send the Grand Lodge the equivalent of $2 per member to help move their offices to Jefferson City fell by the wayside. Brother Buford A. Padley moved, which was seconded by Brother Charles S. Kersey, that we rescind the vote taken on November 19th. Motion carried. The first meeting night in December has always been designated as election night. 1976 was no exception. After the election, the following brothers found themselves in these respective stations: Jerry L. Boyd, Worshipful Master; Terry D. Boyd, Senior Warden; James E. Cook, Junior Warden; Robert V. Fonstock, Treasurer; and Richard C. Sutton, Secretary. The Master-elect announced that the installation of officers would be Friday, December 17, 1976. On Thursday, December 23, 1976, the Bates County News headliner carried a picture of the new master with a caption that read, "Youngest Masonic Master." Here we quote from the news headliner story. Jerry Boyd accepts gavel from installing Master Leonard Miller and becomes the youngest master to serve Butler Lodge number 254 AF and AM. Boyd and his twin brother Terry, 26, also becomes the first twins in the 110-year history of the lodge to hold top offices. Terry was installed senior warden. Jerry Boyd, as the new master, may also be the youngest master in the state. End of quote. Back on January 3, 1969, a committee had been appointed to check the feasibility of buying a metal file cabinet for our records. No action was ever taken. On January 7, 1977, another committee was appointed, not only to buy a file cabinet, but an attaché case for both the secretary and treasurer. The committee was Brother Elmer Hahn Jr., Robert V. Fonstock, and Richard Sutton. This same committee to open the metal safe, which was in the basement, work out the combination, and move it upstairs. In order to help complete the pictorial display of the past masters, Brother Charles K. Silvers offered to furnish his camera and time, free of charge, if the lodge would purchase the film. He would first make pictures of living past masters and give assistance to the committee who was trying to obtain pictures of deceased masters. This was agreeable with the lodge. At the January 21, 1977 meeting, the Safe Committee reported that the safe combination had now been worked out. The safe was now in the northeast corner of the anteroom. The combination was recorded in the current minute book. Also was in a safety box at the First National Bank. At this same meeting, it was voted to purchase 25-year pins for all who were eligible. We now quote from the minutes of January 21, 1977. The master appointed brothers Leonard C. Miller, Paul Scroggum, and Terry D. Boyd to work with the secretary to determine who should receive the pins, approximate cost, and ascertain if they could be present for the presentation. End of quote. Arrangements were being made to present Brother Walter S. Taylor his 50-year pin. On February 4, 1977, the committee to purchase a file cabinet reported they had purchased same along with two attaché cases, total cost being $56. Bill was allowed. During discussions about past masters' pictures, it was learned that Fleming Studio would furnish photos of Charles W. Ott, Lloyd W. Brooks, and Elmer J. Campbell for $29. It was voted to purchase these pictures. Worshipful Master Jerry Boyd announced at Grand Lecturer Brother Stanton Brown who was coming to our lodge on February 22nd to hold a school of instructions, decided to have Washington's Day banquet the same night. District Deputy Grand Master Brother Charles H. Boyd read a letter from the Grand Master which in effect said, no lodge should have initiation fees less than $50. After the stated meeting on February 18, 1977, the Master, Brother Jerry L. Boyd, Senior Warden Terry D. Boyd, and Junior Warden James E. Cook held a business meeting, and the subject was to revise the bylaws. At the March 7, 1977 meeting, the Secretary read the proposed changes to the lodge, and here we quote from the minutes. This new proposal read, and to be voted on April 1, 1977, was: change paragraph 2, Article 4, Section 1, to read as follows. His petition shall be accompanied by at least 2 members of the lodge and delivered to the Secretary with a sum of $80 accompanying. Change Section 6 to read as follows. The fee for conferring the entered apprentice degree shall be $40, for the fellowcraft degree $20, and for the Master Mason degree $20. Change Article 7, Section 1 to read as follows. Every member, not exempt, shall pay annual dues of $20 in advance. Changes in initiation fees to take effect immediately upon approval. Changes in dues are to take effect January 1st, 1978. End of quote. On April 1st, 1977, the proposed changes in the bylaws were voted on with the following results. Ballot being taken on the changes collectively was declared illegal because 2 brothers did not vote. Motion was made by Brother Richard C. Sutton and seconded by Brother Wilbur L. Taylor that we strike the ballot and vote. Motion carried. This time, changing of Article 4, Section 1 failed by a vote of 10 to 8. Changing of Article 7, Section 1 passed by a vote of 13 to 5. Beginning January 1st, 1978, our annual dues would be $20. That ever-nagging problem, the roof, was discussed at length. Our trustees to meet with the Oddfellows to make some more repairs. The meeting of May 6, 1977 was like many other ones. Both lodges agreed to spend about $270 on the roof for material, but volunteer labor was needed. Several brethren from our lodge helped, and it seemed their efforts were not in vain, at least for the time being. A letter was read on May 20th, 1977 from the International Supreme Council, Order of Demolay, requesting contributions for the scholarship program they were sponsoring. A motion was made, seconded, and carried that we send them $10. Presentation of 25-year pins to those eligible was to be held at the next meeting. Brother Richard L. Swela mentioned the altar needed to be recovered, and that some time back it was voted to get it repaired. Brother John E. Hirschman, Jr. offered to get the recovering done. There was a nice crowd on hand for the presentation of the 25-year pins on June 3, 1977. Again, we quote from the minutes. 12 brothers eligible for 25-year pins were present to receive theirs. Brother Herbert Neeson, Wesley Johnson, Charles H. Kersey, Wesley Schell, Lauren Belk, Wesley Jackson, George Rep, George Rives, Hugh Jameson, Arlie Helgedick, Eddie Dodds, and Richard L. Swela, respectively, received their pins. District Deputy Grand Master Brother Charles H. Boyd made the presentations. After the presentations, each brother gave a short talk. Mayor Raymond York honored the lodge with a visit and gave a nice speech, praising Freemasonry. C.A. Moore, from the Bates County Headliner, took pictures to be published in the local paper. Naturally, during the visits of the mayor and C.A. Moore, the lodge was in recess. The recess was declared over, but before lodge was closed, the Worshipful Master Committee to mail pins to those who were eligible but unable to be present. After the lodge was closed, all retired to the dining room where Brother Wilbur L. Taylor and his Eats Committee had a wonderful meal waiting. A letter read on June 17, 1977, from the Division of Family Services requesting a donation of $22.70 so that one youth could attend summer camp. Our lodge honored that request. On August 10, 1977, Brother John E. Hirschman, Jr. was dismissed from the committee, appointed to get the altar recovered. He stated the price was too high and that he would do it himself. On September 2, 1977, Brother Hirschman reported the altar was almost done and would cost considerable less than the estimate. On September 16, 1977, the Worshipful Master and three brethren from Clinton Lodge, number 548, paid our lodge a visit. They brought with them a traveling gavel. The idea originally started in Winnebago, Minnesota in 1975. The purpose was to encourage visitation between the various lodges in different states. So far it had traveled from Minnesota through Iowa and into Missouri. All lodges in the 35th District were saddened to learn the nice new hall of Crescent Hill Lodge number 368 at Adrian had burned on September 25, 1977. We offered them the use of our hall. So did Archie Lodge number 633. Fortunately, the Odd Fellows at Adrian offered them the same use of their hall, which was accepted. On October 21, 1977, our lodge voted to take the traveling gavel to Lodge number 61 in Lacey, Kansas on November 7, 1977. December 2, 1977 was time to elect new officers. Since Brother Jerry L. Boyd had served in the East this year and his twin brother, Terry D. Boyd, was in the West, naturally his next step would be the Master Station. Our present Master, 1980, Brother John E. Hirschman Sr., was now Junior Warden. Installation of officers was held on December 16, 1977. Past Master Brother Leonard C. Miller, who had been installing Master back in 1973 for the Boyd's twins' father, Brother Charles H. Boyd, and for Brother Jerry L. Boyd in 1976, again was the installing Master. The Bates County News headliner carried a picture of the new Master with this caption, "Historic Masonic Event." We quote from the paper. During a stated communication of Butler Lodge number 254, AF and AM, Terry Boyd accepts the gavel from installing Master Leonard Miller. His twin brother Jerry was installed December 19, 1976 by the same installing staff. This was the first time in the 111-year history of Butler Lodge that two brothers had served consecutively in a master's chair. Also, the records don't show of any other twins being members of the lodge. Terry now becomes the second youngest master ever to hold that office. The distinction of being the youngest master goes to his twin brother, Jerry, just 26 years old. End of quote. After installation, Butler Lodge resumed. It was mentioned that the little Stephen, a girl, had cancer of the bone and one of her legs had been amputated. The family needed help, so a fund was started by one of the local banks. Our lodge voted to contribute $50 to this fund. Because of the changes the Grand Lodge had made in the bylaws for blue lodges, and the desire to amend our own bylaws, which had become outdated, on March 3, 1978, the Master appointed Brothers Leonard C. Miller, Robert E. Miller, and Charles K. Silvers to make the recommended changes and present them at the next stated meeting. On March 17, 1978, the committee recommended the following. Number 1, minimum age to petition for initiation from 21 to 18 years. Number 2, fee for conferring the entered apprentice degree to be $31. Fee for conferring the fellowcraft degree to be $15. Fee for conferring the Master Mason degree to be $15. Number 3, After June 30th, 1979, the fee for the entered apprentice degree shall go to $35, for the fellowcraft degree, $20, and the Master Mason degree to $20. Number 4, the annual dues would be $20, paid in advance. Number 5, a new section was added to Article 12, which read, each master, during his term of office shall, with the consent of the lodge, set aside one stated or special meeting night, other than past master's night, to be designated as father and son night. Special entertainment should be provided. On April 7, 1978, a request was read from Mrs. Revel Stubblefield, the local historian, wanting to use our history as part of her weekly column in the Bates County News Headliner. Her request was granted. At this same meeting, it was brought to the lodge's attention that we had been in the present building almost 10 years, yet no cornerstone had been deposited. The brethren knew back in 1906 our lodge had participated in the cornerstone ceremony at the Fraternal Inn Hotel. We had a list of its contents, and our lodge history gave an eyewitness account of the event. Why not retrieve those contents from the stone and deposit them in a new stone? Finally, it was voted to pursue the matter farther. So Worshipful Master Brother Terry D. Boyd appointed the following committee: Brothers Leonard C. Miller, James E. Cook, and John E. Hirschman, Sr. Their duty was to confer with the Odd Fellows, co-owners of the cornerstone at the hotel building, and with Mr. James Tiona, present owner of the hotel. On April 21, 1978, the revised bylaws were approved. On May 5, 1978, one of the Cornerstone Committee, being a member of the Oddfellows Lodge, reported that he had discussed the opening of the Hotel Cornerstone in open lodge, and they had voted to participate in the opening ceremony. Also, Mr. James Tiona, Jr. had agreed to permit the stone to be opened, provided all bricks and material would be replaced as before. After a great deal of discussion, our lodge voted to proceed as planned. On June 16, 1978, the Cornerstone Committee reported that Mr. Emmett J. Kling, owner of the Butler Monument Company here in Butler, had agreed to open the cornerstone free of charge and not damage any of the bricks. However, since Mr. Tione was renovating the building, Mr. Kling recommended that the lodge use the brick masons employed by Mr. Tiona. This was agreeable with the brethren, and a favorable vote was cast. June 16, 1978, will be remembered by the brethren for another reason. We draped a charter in memory of our late brother and secretary, Brother Elmer Hahn, Jr. Masonic services were conferred, and many of the brethren attended his funeral. Now we had had 3 line officers die while in office since our institution back in 1867. July 1st, 1978 was the date set for opening the cornerstone at the hotel building. The weather was hot and everyone was preparing for the 4th of July celebrations being held in different parts of the county. This would be a historic date in the history of our lodge, yet it was with much enthusiasm that we made preparations for the big day. Butler's Mayor, Bill Thornton, was our special guest. District Deputy Grand Master, Brother Charles H. Boyd, and District Deputy Grand Lecturer, Brother Art R. Zelmer, from Crescent Hill Lodge number 368 at Adrian, were the only Grand Lodge officers present. The radio station KMAM and editor C.A. Moore of the Bates County News Headliner covered the event. A large crowd gathered that morning. Promptly at 10 a.m., the box was lifted gently from the stone. Everyone wanted to see the 1906 publications of the Butler Weekly Democrat and the Republican Press. What was removed will be covered later when the new stone is deposited on November 9th, 1980. A cassette tape was made of the actual opening along with the local station's newscast that day. The committee recorded the newscast from the local radio station Monday, July 3rd, 1980.
Not only does it give the local news, but mentions the opening of the Cornerstone at the Inn Hotel. Later that day, the station played the tape of the actual opening of the Cornerstone. The committee feels that since this is a part of our history, it should be included on this tape. Here it is.
Hello, this is Leonard Miller. The date is July 3rd, 1978. On this tape is a newscast of this morning following the opening of the Cornerstone Saturday, July 1, 1978 at the Fraternal Inn Hotel building. At that time, Butler Lodge 254 AF and AM opened the Cornerstone and retrieved the copper box to remove the contents which our lodge had deposited on October the 25th, 1906. These contents, along with other artifacts, will be deposited later in a new cornerstone ceremony at our new hall at 203 West Dakota Street in this city. Also, after the newscast, will be heard the actual opening of the box as recorded on tape by radio station KMAM here in Butler. Thank you.
State Banks, north side of the Butler Square, and on Fort Scott Street at Business 71, bring you the local news at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Reporting the home front news on a Monday morning, the K-Country News Director, Lisa Yarick.
Thank you, Kermit, and good morning. After a high-speed foot chase Friday night, Bates County Sheriff Buck Huff arrested a Warrensburg man at gunpoint on suspicion of forging checks. Huff spotted the man at the carnival in Rich Hill Friday night and said the man fled. A number of forged checks were in the man's possession at the time of arrest. He had cashed several of them at area stores. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for this morning in Magistrate Court. About 2,100 members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers remain on strike today, with negotiations now on involving wages, pension, health, and life insurance benefit programs. 3 unions involved include IBEW Local 412, power plant personnel, Local 1464, that's linemen and outside employees, and Local 1613, office and clerical workers. Chinch bugs are back and are destroying fields of corn and milo in Bates County. After practically disappearing for about 20 years, they caused light scattered damage on a few farms in 1977. Whole fields of young milo have been killed in 1978, especially where volunteer wheat was not destroyed until shortly before milo planting. Most other hot spots are where bugs leave mature wheat and move into nearby corn or sorghums. Control is not easy as bugs tend to hide under lower leaf sheaths, said John D. Hubbard, Area Extension Agronomist Specialist from the University of Missouri. In fact, some may even be underground if soil is loose and dry. The first ones I found this year were underground or on cutworm-damaged corn near Rich Hill in early May. Ground rigs seem to do a better job than airplanes. Apparently, the coarser spray with more water run down into leaf sheaths better. Spraying half a gallon of 6E toxaphene in at least 20 gallons of water is the most popular control. Of course, dairy farms should not use toxaphene. Have commercial applicators apply about 3/4 of a pound of ethyl parathion. Adult chinch bugs are about a 1/16 of an inch long, he said. Color is black with 3-cornered white spots on their backs. Young forms are red or black with a white stripe. All stages give off a strong odor when mashed. Several farmers have asked about their life cycle. Adult winter in protected places like tall grass, brush, timber, and rodent nests. Bates County farmers are asked to certify their 1978 planted acreage, set aside, diversion, and other program acreages with the ASCS office. To ensure their eligibility for receiving price support benefits, disaster, deficiency, diversion, and wheat grazing payments, Farmers should report program acreages as accurately as possible.
With less than 50 seconds left on this side of the tape, we will continue with the newscast on side number 2. Please turn the tape over.
The certification date for corn, grain sorghum, and soybeans is July 31st of this year. Producers who did not sign up for the set-aside program should also report their acreages to ensure the opportunity to fully participate in future programs. People traveling and swimming should heed fair warning that this holiday weekend has already been a dangerous one for many Missourians. 2 brothers wading in the Platte River in northwest Missouri were among 6 persons who drowned in Missouri over the weekend. 20-year-old Kenneth Matson and his 19-year-old brother Donald, both of Conception, drowned Sunday when they walked into water that was above their heads. Sunday evening, 26-year-old Douglas McDade of St. Louis drowned in a cove on the Lake of the Ozarks. The Water Patrol said McDade was swimming with 3 friends around a boat. Mark Boatner, age 18, of Moline Acres, drowned early Sunday at an apartment complex swimming pool in St. Louis County. And 11-year-old Melvoy Jones of Alton, Illinois, drowned Saturday evening in the Mississippi River in St. Charles County, Missouri. Dr. M.O. Rain doesn't worry too much these days about the amount of fuel that registers on the gas gauge of his 13-year-old vehicle. It's because the 75-year-old dentist always carries an ample supply of charcoal powder in the trunk. Enough of the fine dust is stored in a metal container inside Rain's 1965 Plymouth Valiant to power him around town and a little farther. Rain is a former mayor of his hometown of Harrisonville, about 20 miles southeast of Kansas City. The adapted 6-cylinder vehicle is fueled by a mixture of 5% gasoline and 95% powdered charcoal. The car is started on a pure mixture of gasoline. Once it's running, a valve is turned to reduce the flow of gas to a trickle and start siphoning charcoal powder into the combustion chamber. Rain isn't a new advocate of the benefits of charcoal. He and engineer Cleo Brown of Harrisonville adapted the car after developing a diesel engine that has driven a rock crusher for about 1 year with no signs of excessive wear. Rain and his associates have a patent pending on the idea. They won't get too specific about the details of their project. But Rains does say charcoal powder is a less expensive fuel for his car than gasoline, based on comparisons of equal weights of gas and charcoal powder. I'll be back with more local news after this.
If you're strong on investments, your Butler State banks have a new way to save that will keep up with the going rate from week to week. It's the new money market certificate with a minimum issue for 6 months based on Treasury bill rates, which change weekly. The rate changes on Thursday of each week. Check with Butler State Bank for current rates and enjoy the same rate as a Treasury bill without taking your money from your local bank. The money market certificate stipulates a minimum of $10,000 for 6 months, but the return is outstanding. We also remind you of the excellent 7.75% interest now on 8-year certificates of deposit. In fact, interest is desirable in every category, beginning with passport savings that pay a strong 5%, compounded daily to amount to 5.13% if left for a year at Butler State. And you may draw from this savings account at any time. Top flexibility coupled with good savings at your Butler State banks. It's
New newspapers from the year 1906, things having to do with Masons and Oddfellows, calling cards, and political cards were among items revealed Saturday morning at the opening of the time capsule. Those items had been placed and sealed in a metal box and bricked inside a cornerstone at the Inn Hotel building in Butler on October 26, 1906. Then they were taken out by members of the Butler Mason Lodge 254. Items were also removed from the Oddfellows Lodge, IOOF 108, that were stored inside the box at the same time. Instrumental in the opening of the box Saturday morning and removing of the bricks was Emmett Kling of Butler Monument and Charles Boyd, District Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Lodge, and Leonard Miller, Past Master, who did the actual opening of the box. Listen today at 10:35 during our community call-in program for an account of that opening. This morning I spoke to Mr. Miller about the Oddfellows and Masons Lodge history.
Butler Lodge 254 AF&AM was instituted July 25th, 1867. Their first home was a two-story frame building on the corner of Ohio Street and Main Street, which is the present location of the penny store. They had to vacate that building in October 1869. Because the building and lot was sold to build the present penny store building. They met in various places until the new courthouse was to be built, and their hall was dedicated on the third floor of the courthouse on September 12, 1871. They had a 99-year lease with the county court. However, the court did not honor this lease when the new courthouse was built. And so both lodges bought $1,500 in shares in the fraternal inn building. Therefore, they had a controlling interest and built the third floor on it, too. The Inn Hotel building was dedicated October the 25th in 1906. Two Grand Masters of different orders dedicated the halls. The Oddfellows distributed 1,500 souvenir coins the day the building was was dedicated. They moved to their present location on May the 12th, in 1968, when the hall was dedicated. An oddity of the whole situation was Buren Van Dyke, our first secretary, also plotted and laid out the city of Butler. He later was sent to the Masonic home in St. Louis. And when he died, the lodge was obligated to pay his funeral expenses, which was $72. Hardly would buy the flowers for a funeral today. The lodge participated in several activities in the community, especially contributed heavily to building the sidewalk from Main Street to the cemetery. Today we have a modern air conditioning building with central heat and a carpet on the floor, which cost more money than the original building and lot did where we were instituted. Our original building had sawdust on the floor, kerosene lights, and was heated with wood stove. Today we're proud of our new hall, and we thank the radio station for the coverage at the opening of the cornerstone. Thank you.
That was Leonard Miller, and he updated the present history of the lodges. One obituary to report this morning: funeral services for Donald L. Long, age 82, of Lacine, will be held at 2 o'clock this afternoon at the Lacine United Methodist Church. That's Donald L. Long with burial in Oak Lawn Cemetery. Plan next week to answer a few questions asked by college-aged youths who will be circulating within the Butler city limits. The youths are helping gather information for a survey which was recently approved by the Butler Planning Commission. The new attitude survey will aid in compiling figures on Butler's correct population, the workforce in this area, and it will ask various simple questions. For instance, how many members are in your family, their ages and sex, which are employed and where. The Butler Chamber of Commerce requested the survey be made, and it will cost the Planning Commission $7,000 to $8,000. There will be no regular residential, business, or rural mail delivery or lobby window service at the Butler Post Office tomorrow, July 4th, in observance of the Declaration of Independence. However, special delivery service will be available, and lockbox service will be available on a Sunday schedule, 7:15 in the morning until 12 noon. Mail will be picked up from collection boxes around the square at 11:30 in the morning. Normal service will resume on Wednesday, July 5th. Due to the 4th of July holiday, Butler High School weightlifting practice has been canceled for this evening. In other local sports news is the upcoming football camp beginning July 17th and lasting the 2 weeks of July. According to head coach Jim Edmondson, athletes who did not participate in sports last year must have a physical before the 17th of this month. Edmondson did not say the football camp was a requirement for next season's prospects, but he added with 17 seniors graduated, the coaches will be looking hard for players, and they urge interested students to be at the camp. U.S. Representative Ike Skelton will be in Butler this Wednesday, July 5th, for a coffee at Lola's Steakhouse this Wednesday. The meeting will be at 1:30 p.m. Lola's will furnish cookies and coffee, and anyone interested in talking with a Congressman Skelton is invited to attend. That's Wednesday, the 5th, at Lola's at 1:30. We were just talking about an attitudes survey that was going to be made, and I got my zeros mixed up. That's only going to be $700 to $800, not $7,000. Okay, and again, you're reminded to listen in at 10:35 this morning during our usual community call-in program for an account of Saturday morning's opening of the time capsule in Butler. That's today's local news. I'm Lisa Yarrick reporting.
You see a time capsule that was opened up and the cornerstone of the old hotel in downtown Butler. It was a time capsule for both the Masonic Lodge and I believe there was another lodge. I can't remember just right offhand, but here's a young lady who does. Our news director, Lisa Dawes, was there, and she recorded all this. And so now we're going to bring it to you at this time.
A time capsule, which has been sealed and hidden since October 25th, 1906, was opened today. Items were placed in a sealed metal box and bricked inside a corner column on the east side of the old Inn Hotel building by Oddfellows Lodge number 108 IOOF and by Mason's Lodge number 254. We were at the scene today just as the bricks were beginning to be removed as the courthouse clock on the square rang 10 o'clock a.m. Gingerly moving bricks with a screwdriver was Emmett Kling of Butler Monument, assisted by Mr. Charles Boyd, District Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Lodge. The bricks had been taken away earlier and replaced with a plastic mortar to make the ceremonial opening more easy. As the first two bricks were being removed, historian of the two lodges and past master of the Masons, Leonard Miller, spoke about the exciting event.
Well, as you've told them before, the cornerstone was laid in 1906, and since then, in 1967, the lodges bought a new building down on West Dakota Street, and we moved down there, but we failed to consider removing the contents of our cornerstone until just recently, and we plan on rededicating the hall sometime this fall with a new cornerstone, and we will put these contacts that we get today along with some other artifacts of the lodge and have a ceremony when it's a little bit cooler than it is now. Right now, the boys I see are almost down to the box, and I'm going to have to get over there and help them, Lisa, so I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, it's a very warm day today. I can look at the Butler State Bank time and temperature screen, and it's reading about 83 degrees out here. The box is just being taken outside. It's some kind of a metal. I don't know if it's brass or copper or what, but we hear some people in the background who are getting terribly excited about having this box open. It's been in there since October 25th, 1906, put there by the Masons, number 254 for Butler, and the Oddfellows, chapter 108. They're beginning to take some pictures right now. They're holding the box rather gingerly. The bricks surrounding the box in this somewhat of a column on the east side of the old Inn Hotel building were loosened several days ago and replaced with some plastic mortar to make the opening easier. The bricks have been carefully put on the ground. They will be replaced in their natural state. They've been very careful not to hurt any of the bricks. They're checking the box out very carefully right now. Mayor Bill Thornton is standing at the side right now, looking the box over. They're brushing it off, and it appears that they'll get some tools soon to do the actual opening. But we've got a good crowd here despite the heat. People are looking very attentively at what's happening today. As usual, we've got representative of the Gates County News headliner, C.A. Moore, the editor, who's been the editor for many years now. He's taking pictures of the gathering just in front of the box and in front of where it has been located on the east side here. Trees are very green. It's been a good spring, and the summer seems to be going to be a very hot one and very humid one. Just now, Leonard Miller has got a soldering iron, and he's trying to remove the seal from around the top of the box. They're brushing it as he goes, and the gathering has moved up closer. We're back in a little alcove here near some old doors. There's a little table there, and the box is sitting on top. Everybody's pushing around, trying to see who's going to be there. I see a little bit of handshaking here and there. Yes, both Masons and Oddfellows are here alike, side by side, waiting to see what's inside. Now, the Oddfellows had voted at an earlier meeting, and you may be hearing the scraping in behind. The Oddfellows voted at an earlier meeting not to remove the contents of their box, both the contents from the Masons and the Oddfellows are in the same box. But since the Oddfellows will be leaving theirs, the Masons will take theirs out to examine them and put them in another cornerstone back at their lodge hall. They're trying to rededicate that lodge hall. I see they're having a little bit of difficulty getting the box open. Maybe Thornton Strains forward to see. One member told us that they thought it was a good time right now to do this opening because this is a special time for the N Hotel. It became somewhat of an eyesore on the corner of the Butler Square. It had been a very important building, a very important part of the community, but it had been, from age and possibly neglect. It was just recently bought by Mr. James Tiona, who plans to restore the building right now. Tiona commented at a city council meeting recently that he had intended to spend approximately $250,000 restoring this old hotel, but it appears now, he says, that it will cost around $500,000. They're continuing to work on this box, and it looks like they're making some headway along one side of it. I'd say it's about 8 inches tall and about 1 foot long, about 8 inches again. It must be a soft metal because it is coming off, but they sealed it this day, they're sure. There's one last corner, and they've lifted up one corner, and they're beginning to lift it up all the way. The inside of the box is pretty shiny. And he's pulling out the first item. Leonard Miller is looking around to see what he's doing.
Well, here's the first is the picture of the hotel when it was built. I see how the window broke out. This is Gravel Street? Yeah, it's Gravel Street. It's the front part of the building.
Front of the building. Okay. Gravel Street. There's wide walk in front too.
Okay. This is from Kittle and Grove's Grocery Hardware Store in 1900. Well, you can help me take them out. And here's a poem that says, "Where the days are gone by." I don't take time to read that.
Who's it by?
This says WWR, compliments of WWR. I don't know what. There's Friday, October 26th copy of the Butler Daily Democrat.
This goods, how much?
No, you can look and see, Jay. They don't have any left here. Here's a letter.
Say, don't say.
Says October 25, 1906, the Masons and Oddfellow Lodges of Butler will dedicate their new halls in the fraternal building in which ceremonies you are cordially invited to participate.
Each order will meet in its own hall at 2:30 p.m. when the halls will be dedicated by the Grand Masters of their respective lodges. At 3:30 p.m. there will be a parade and other ceremonies on the street. At 7:30 p.m. there will be some select music and an address by the Grand Master of the Oddfellows in the M.E. Church South, following by a reception in the lodge room to which all are invited. Fraternally W.F. Hem Street, Worshipful Master of Butler Lodge 254, A.F. and A.M., and J.R. Baum, Noble Grand of Base Lodge 180, IAAF, with Walter S. Arnold, Secretary. And here's a copy of the Grand Lodge bylaws and constitutions of the Masonic Order. Butler's and here's a copy of the bylaws of Butler Lodge 254. No, this is belongs to the. This is the Oddfellows. It's on the medallion of the Centennial Exposition of the 23rd Annual Encampment of the Grand Army of the Republic. And here's a souvenir program of the Portland Exposition. I don't want to open it up, it might ruin it. Here's a copy of the triple link publication of the Oddfellows, published at Springfield, Missouri on October 1, 1906. And then there's a copy of the Missouri Oddfellow, published October 14, 1906. And another copy of the Butler, or the Bates County Democrat. And here's a corrected edition of the bylaws of Base Lodge 180 of the Oddfellows and the Missouri Grand Lodge bylaws. This is for the repeat. And that's a repeat of the bylaws of the Masonic Lodge. And here's a record of James Oliver Hogue, the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Missouri, who laid the cornerstone and was the architect of the building.
What was his name,
James Oliver Hogue, H-O-G-G. He was the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge then. So on the back he says, Past Master James Oliver Hogue, architect of the building of the Committee of the Grand Lodge, in the ceremony of laying the cornerstone and the dedication to our living and true God. Mr. Hogue is a member of Royal Arch number 316 AF and AM of Kansas City, Missouri. Here's a candidate, who's a little politician those days, card of James R. Engel, candidate for sheriff of Bates County. Engel. Doing a little politics. Here's the card of W.W. Lyle, Republican candidate for the circuit clerk of Bates County. And there's the card of T.D. Embry, a Democrat nominee for the circuit clerk of Bates County. And here's the card of Dr. James N. Morse, eye, ear, throat specialist, that says on the south side of the square. There's the card of Frank H. Cromwell, Buffalo, Missouri. Apparently he was a real estate man. He has lands on the corner of the card. And here's the card of J.R. Engel. I forget just what I remember reading about him. Here's the card of Dr. Harry M. Cannon, who was a dentist and was also the secretary of the Masonic Lodge. And here's the card of James Crockett, Reverend James Crockett, pastor of the Christian Church. That seems to be the contents. So,
Could I get you in
brothers, I guess the next thing will be to separate
what was the Masons and what was the Odd Fellows, and get it back in the box and get it soldered up again before it gets hot. I don't think it's over, about 90 right now.
Can you guys get in this little closer?
The may solder itself. And speaking for the Masonic Lodge and the Odd Fellow Lodge and all of the brothers present, I would like to thank all of you for coming, and I hope that you'll remember this day. We was hoping Wesley Denton would be here. He was one that was the first one initiated in the hall after they first went to meeting here in the hotel, but of course Wesley's gone, and as far as I know, all the other members that were ever initiated here are gone. But it's been quite a day, and it's been hot, but it's been worth it. And Lisa, we want to thank you so much for coming up. And Mary Thornton, we want to thank you, and Emmett Crane, wherever you are, thank you for all the work you've done. You're not quite done yet. We've got some more work to do here to get through. And Charlie and Terry and our oldest member, Albert Durst, Brother Albert Durst, we're glad to have you here with us. And Claude, you're an old grand of the Bates Lodge. I'm sure glad to have you here with us, and thank your committee for working with us on this.
What are you removing?
We are removing the contents that belongs to the Masonic Lodge, and the contents that belong to the Odd Fellows will be put back in here and soldered up and put back in the corner, the bricks put back in place, and they're going to stay in the cornerstone.
That has been an account of the opening of the time capsule at the Inn Hotel building in Butler. For KMAN KMO Radio News, this is Lisa Yarrick reporting.
This will go into the new stone, along with pictures of the opening. This was truly an adventure long to be remembered by the brethren. Many lodges have deposited cornerstones, but few to date have opened them. Long before the actual opening, it had been established that the Odd Fellows did not care to retrieve their contents. They did have a committee on hand for the opening. After all artifacts belonging to the Masons were removed, the stone was resealed. Before it was, the Masons put the following notice in the metal box: July 1st, 1978, to whom it may concern. Please be advised that on the above date, this cornerstone was opened by Butler Lodge number 254, AF and AM, for the purpose of obtaining the contents which their lodge had deposited on October 26, 1906. Those same contents, along with other artifacts belonging to the lodge, are to be deposited in a new cornerstone laying ceremony at a later date at their new hall located at 203 West Dakota Street in this city. It bore the seal of the lodge, along with the signatures of District Deputy Grand Master Brother Charles H. Boyd, Worshipful Master Brother Terry D. Boyd, and Secretary Pro Tem Brother Jerry L. Boyd. On July 7, 1978, it was voted to pay Mr. M. J. Kling $20 for his services during the cornerstone opening. Worshipful Master Brother Terry D. Boyd appointed his twin brother, Jerry L. Boyd, secretary for the rest of the term. On September 1st, 1978, Mr. James Tione Jr. presented the lodge with a bill for $82.20 for material and labor for resealing the hotel cornerstone. Bill was allowed. Back on April 16th, 1973, the Masons and Oddfellows had purchased an electric stove. By now it was showing signs of wear and needed to be replaced. During the renovation of the Fraternal Inn Hotel building, Mr. Tione decided to dispose of a large gas cook stove that had been in the coffee shop. The price was $100. The Masons, Eastern Star, Oddfellows, and Repecas purchased it jointly at $25 each. At the November 7, 1978 meeting, the Master reminded the brethren at Crescent Hill Lodge number 368 at Adrian would dedicate their new hall on Sunday, November 18, 1978. Several other brethren from our lodge attended, along with many from the Adrian area. The heavy rains in the spring of 1979 made it almost mandatory for the lodges to purchase a new sump pump for the basement. On February 2, 1979, The committees of both lodges bought one from Rep Hardware. It cost $81.40. We paid one half the cost. Near the end of 1978, the Grand Lodge sent out a communique to all subordinate lodges, which contained legislation passed at the last Grand Lodge session. One bill would let the membership of the order vote for Grand Lodge officers. Another would appoint the Grand Lodge officers. Our lodge voted for the first bill, where we would elect the Grand officers, and that's the way it went statewide. The minutes of April 6, 1979 state, our lodge voted to continue electing Grand Lodge officers as we had in the past. During the spring rains of 1979, not only did we have water in the basement, but we had it in the lodge room. The roof began to give more than usual amount of trouble. At the meeting of July 6, 1979, serious talk began to surface about changing the pitch of the roof and putting on an entirely new one. The minutes of August 17, 1979 state, the Sutton Construction Company of Butler would put on a hip-type roof, including guttering, for about $6,000. The job would be done in September. At the meeting of September 7, 1979, the Secretary read a letter from the Chamber of Commerce asking our lodge to furnish condensed history of the lodge for the new Bates County book being published. It was voted to do so, and Brother Leonard C. Miller was appointed as a committee of one to write. At this same meeting, a recess was declared so the trustees of Bates Lodge No. 180, IOOF, could be admitted to discuss the roof problem. It was agreeable with them, so our lodge voted to start work immediately.
To continue with the history of our lodge, play tape number 6, side number 1.